Welcome, everyone. Buenos dias. How's everyone doing? Good? Everyone can hear me? You got. All right, here we go. Hi, I'm Janette Fernandez, and I want to tell you, I had been in a company for about 3 years, and I never negotiated my salary. All I could hear was my parents, especially my father, telling me, "Ha, you just gotta be grateful that you have a job. Don't make waves, right?" And I really didn't have any tools. No one had told me the story of like you can actually negotiate your salary. I really wanted to just be mission driven and just sit quietly and just make everyone happy. But I did not know there was actual tactics that I could do. So today, this is what we're talking about. And I have some great panelists here to help us out. So I have Marco Ceniceros, Vice President of Member Engagement at Lee, a civic leadership organization. And I also have Angie. Okay. And you told me your last name to say it is like pasta, but not pasta. So can you say it for me? Because I don't want to mess it up.
Ostaszewski.
You see, I like that. I like
Ostaszewski. Has a Z in it, so you have to come
you
up
gotta
with
do that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot of botched graduations.
And then we have Leah Allen. Yes, Leah Allen is also here. She's the founder of Mobilize Screen. And so thank you for being here. And we're just gonna go right into it. Now, what power dynamics show up in mission driven work when someone brings up salary? And how do you speak up when being seen as someone who cares more about money than the mission? So, uh, Marcus, you want to take it first?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Marcus. I actually started my career in political organizing and also as a teacher. And so these are both two industries that I think folks have said, you have to do this because you care about it. And when it was like 7 o'clock at night and I was in my first grade classroom getting stuff ready for the next day, that was really hard work. And I was not making a whole lot of money. And it was definitely not a place where I thought I could negotiate or even understand what that salary is. And over the course of time, I just realized in order to do this work sustainably, to be able to do the things that you care deeply about, it has to be a part of the equation. It has to be a part of what you can bring in, how you're able to sustain yourself, and be able to do the fun things that you also want to be able to do in life. And so I think in the space we're in now in the nonprofit area, if someone that I'm interviewing for a role does not ask about it, I make them talk about it and ask like what is your expectations for salary? And a lot of the younger folks that are applying or people that have been in places where that's just not been allowed, you could just see like a shift in their face. And so I think it's really important that we are creating systems and organizations that allow that to be talked about, and to give space for folks to understand how they want to navigate through it. But it's really important that it is transparent, that organizations are able to share what salary ranges exist, what you can grow into, and it's okay to talk about it. So yeah.
Angie, we had a conversation. Tell them what they can negotiate and how to go about it.
Yes, you can negotiate everything. And this is so important to talk about because we are in a society that rewards harming yourself to be productive. And that's what they're asking you to do. Particularly, they're asking people coming out of poverty to continue to live in poverty, to help other people in poverty. And so you're supposed to lift someone up out of poverty while you are applying for SNAP and helping them apply for SNAP. This was my job literally in my 20s. And I was like, I don't even get to benefit from the programs that we deliver. And you want me to continue to live on 28,000 a year, and I am the front desk person. I manage two programs. I do all the marketing and fundraising because there's always high turnover because it's a high burnout industry because they expect you to burn yourself out. You don't have to say all that in a salary negotiation, of course, but you can negotiate more than salary. You can look at if they won't come up on the actual pay, will they give you a sign-on bonus? Will they give you more PTO so you have time to take care of yourself and go to your appointments and like have a life? Will they provide you with ergonomic equipment like a good standing desk, a good chair, a new computer? Will they commit to support you participating on boards and volunteer organizations? A lot of times you might start a job and they say, we're supportive of you being on that board. And then it conflicts with one meeting and they're like, nope. Getting that in writing is very precious if you're developing your career like I was at that phase in my life. Um, and when people are scared and they ask, are you sure? I'm like, The worst thing they can say is no. They took the time to give you an offer. It's expensive to rescind it and go to another applicant. They chose you, so let them say no before you're assuming with the scarcity mindset I heard in the last panel. They have the money to hire you, and only they know the cap on their budget, and it behooves you to ask. Because once you're hired, you will be stuck in that pay range until you get a promotion, because most of the time you're getting a 1 to 5% raise, which is like, isn't even keeping up with inflation. And then your pay is kind of technically going down every year, but that's like a whole nother thing. So anyway,
Thank you.
on to you.
Leah, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that is correct. Actually, kind of knowing your worth. I think for kids of color, I've been
Put microphone closer. Yeah. Closer, just closer to you. There you go.
so Mobilize Green develops leaders in the green space. So we've been doing this for about 12 years. What I find and what we see in some of our career readiness stuff is that kids of color don't ask for what they're worth. They don't believe they're worth anything, so they never bring anything to the table. So beyond just salary negotiation, just a fundamental understanding of who you are and that you are worthy and that you deserve access to opportunities. That I think is just a really fundamental thing. And I think if you don't bring that piece to the table, negotiations is hard.
Yes, yes, it is hard. I always say, like, the body feels weird. You're about to go ask for something. I don't know. You're preparing all night. So, a lot of people take pay cuts to do meaningful work because they really care about the values. So, where's the line? How do you know when the sacrifice is worth it and when it is just not sustainable anymore?
Well, I think if people are asking you to do something that puts your body in harm, you should not do it. So that's one. I think that's a really important one. And I think only everybody determines where their line is. But I don't think you have to sacrifice to be in this kind of work. When we founded Mobilize Green, I come from the corporate sector, so I've come from a really, a very profit-driven motto, and then I was out on Capitol Hill for a number of years. I think you come with what you're worth because it matters, and I think you decide what you're willing to do. But I also think you have to understand the organization you're going to. I think you have to understand the industry you're headed in. Now, you can want to change that industry, but if their salary cap is X, you really have to get information to understand kind of so you know how to make those kind of choices.
And Marcus, with Lee, it's very transparent. And like, how can we create those systems for like when people are applying? What are the things that people that have companies can set in their space to make sure that they pay equitably to folks?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's an important indicator how an organization is sharing their salary ranges, their equity and salary, how they are calculating everything that goes into that work. So some of the best practices that we like to use is we have a open document that shows all of our salary ranges per band. It shows the differences between a manager all the way up through our executive director level. It shows what we pay hourly and ranges of years of experience that goes into that. Once somebody, also the different tierings of the cost of labor adjustments that we make for depending on where you live across the country. Before we make an offer, we do a full salary conversation with each applicant where we go through resumes, and many people leave off different types of things on their resumes because they want it to be one page. But we ask people, what are the volunteer activities that you have done? What are the additional things that you might have left off of here, but that we could calculate towards experience that you can have on there? And so if you're not having one of these types of conversations with the organization before they give you a number or after they give you a number, it's something that you can request. Please share with me how you've calculated this. The other thing that we do at our organization is we show what our pathways are in order to be, if you're starting at one particular level, like a director level, what are the different ways you can grow in that role over time? What are the ways that you can grow across the organization onto a different team? Or just to be honest, like what are the ways that you can grow outside of this organization that you want to leverage your time here, build the experience, help us do something good, but get off to a different place that's going to give you salary and experience that you want to be able to have. And just those open conversations and transparency, I think, are important. And if you see organizations not doing that, it's important for all of us to kind of keep each other accountable to make sure that your organization does share that with incoming applicants, but also with current staff.
I love that. Now, Angie, what is there a time where you just say like, well, I guess it's worth it for me to take a pay cut and just do the mission work?
Nah, but I want to say more stuff. So, one thing I'll add from your answer, which was amazing on the employee side, because a lot of people don't know this, it is legally protected to share what you make at work. It is legally protected to tell people what your salary is and ask them what their salary is, and y'all can share that and then advocate. HR will say, please don't do that. And then I copy and paste the screenshot of the law and I send it and I say, is this policy counter to the law? And then they're always like, we just encourage you not to. And I'm like, okay. That is how I found out that even though I had an MBA and I had been in a company for 7 years, someone who had been there 2 years and had a bachelor's degree was making 30% more than me because he had 3 kids. I could have had 3 kids. Nobody told me that's what I needed to do. That's why I went to school, but you should share. But I never think it's worth it to sacrifice yourself for a job. That's, again, what our society and our environment incentivizes us to do, to be rewarded for our suffering, but our suffering does not help people. It's our work and our impact. So for me, the absolute minimum you should take is you need to calculate it. What is your rent for 12 months? What you spent on groceries, what you spent on utilities, internet, what you spent on trips, what you spent on clothes. There are a lot of cost tracking apps that will categorize your spend. You can look at your spend for the last 12 months and basically create your minimum. And then remember that that's your after tax minimum. So you have to add to it to get to the gross salary that you require. So there's a way to come up with the exact number so you're not going to put yourself in a place of risk or scarcity as a result of taking a job.
Thank you. I love that. There's folks that I never was able to take an internship when I was in school because we didn't have money, right? So a lot of times, sometimes that looks like some people can live with their parents, have people that have other money that they might be able to do that. That was not for me. So knowing your circumstances is very important. And I'm not a discount. This is not Walmart. We're not doing this, right? So that's very important.
This ain't no Ross.
This is no Ross.
I love Ross, though.
TJ Maxx, but all right, here we go. So a question here. A lot of us there's an unspoken message at times with 501c3s, et cetera, of like, you should just be grateful to be here. Now, how do you build leverage? What are some tactics that you can actually build tools to say and advocate for fair pay? So what are actual things that you can do to advocate for fair pay? So Leah.
So I think there are a couple things. One, when you come, actually do a good job. And I think that makes a difference. I think people reward really, really good work. And I think that's an important one, and being a team player and some of those other things. I think understanding what the industry is doing and actually educating your coworkers what's going on in the industries, because every industry is different. And I will say that in the nonprofit space, that everyone has a different structure and a different way they make money. So just understanding that component is really important. I think so. Those are the two, is really kind of understanding the context, but also doing a good job and being in relationships with the people around you so that you can figure out, kind of what is the lay of the land.
Angie?
Yes. Well, something that was important to me is I learned there's a difference between a mentor and a champion. A mentor is going to teach you. A champion is the person who says good things about you when you're not in the room. You need that person. You can't be the one always saying, I did a good job, because unfortunately people don't like that. Even though I love when people toot their own horn, I'm like, toot away. But most of the time, people want you to be accomplished, but modest. Like hardworking, but don't show that you're stressed. The contradictions are very difficult. So having someone who speaks up for you is key. The other thing I make all my staff do for their benefit is to keep a success tracker. So anytime you do something that is of value to the company or of value to a coworker, you just screenshot it and put it in a folder on your phone, or take a picture of your computer and put it in your phone. It doesn't have to be any harder than that. But when it comes time to negotiate your pay, it gives you basically like a little Rolodex to look through of all the great things you did, because we do so many. And when you're in nonprofit work, you overproduce and undervalue what you do. So you're even going to look back when you have a bad day and be like, damn, I worked a lot, because you did.
And Marcus, you are someone that, is able and are you in a driver's seat of being able to do that. So what can someone come in? Where have you seen like the do's and don'ts on your end? Like staff that have done it really well and other ones that have not.
Yeah, for sure. I think an important part is building in a partnership and understanding what systems the organization or company or place that is that you're working in, especially when you're in those mid to senior level ranges. It gets actually a little bit more difficult. I think there's like a lot of really strong practices early in your career to build into salary negotiations. But sometimes in those mid to senior spaces, it's like, well, is this a stretch that is helping me grow for something else that I want to do later? Or is this a sort of over the line ask for what my time is being used for at the moment? And someone who is able to, as a staff member, someone who's able to ask and say, hey, how is this adding to what I am doing? Or the alignment into the job description, or after the end of this project or the stream of work, what do you think will come next for me in those spaces? Those types of questions that are happening hopefully in regular check-ins or in mid-year conversations, I think are necessary in order to do that. I love the idea of a success tracker. That's one of the things I also encourage my team to do as well, is to keep track of and write down in an email. It's like when someone does something awesome that has added benefit, I say, hey, can you just email me the actual details of what you did to do that? Because I want to save that for when we have our evaluation conversations. And in an organization like ours, where we start within our salary, the best way to move up in your increase each year is through the performance evaluation conversations. We actually do percentages to base pay. That's not the same in every place. So understanding how your salary can increase is also an important area to do that.
Well, thank you. I know that we've been running a little late, but I want to ask you a question. Put your mentorship hat on and think about, you got it on? All right.
I hope it looks like you asked.
There you go. What would you say to someone who's afraid to speak up? Leah?
Interesting. I actually encounter that all the time, and really getting them centered and kind of knowing their worth. I keep going back to that, and I've had that conversation. I think we've dealt with over 4,000 young people. My hands have been there in a lot of that, but it is knowing your worth and speak up. And if you need to practice, because sometimes it's actually doing some role playing back and forth with your mentor or with your champion. And I love the idea of a champion. It makes a difference. Somebody who is behind the scenes, kind of really champion you. Now, I do want to say, one thing I will say is knowing kind of the difference between there are things that you are hired to do and you have to do them, and we want you to be successful. We expect success, but we really, in terms of really understanding, knowing when you go above and beyond, and really getting kudos for that, but really being able to kind of be grounded in who you are.
Angie.
This is like really a lesson that was transformative for my life in addition to my career. Learning that the avoidance and trying to prevent something you're scared of is so much more painful than just letting that thing happen. So agonizing 8 hours a day that you're underpaid and they don't see what you're doing is so much worse than just saying, yo, can we have a conversation about my salary? What do you need me to prepare? It's going to be so scary, like the first 18 times you do it. But it's like a muscle. I think for people who work out tell me if you do it a lot, your muscles will get bigger and you will become more resilient. But discomfort is required for us to neurologically become more adept. We cannot get better at something by just feeling good all the time. I wish, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Leah, you had something to add. I saw your reaction. Tell me a little bit more.
Oh, God, I hope it was good.
No,
You're so smart.
No, it was really good. Just knowing, that the knowing, it's not just knowing your worth, and it's not just being good. It's also reading the room. And I really want to get to that. You got to read the room. And that's a really important thing. And I just, and being willing to step up and speak, sometimes it's hard. But the thing that I was going to say, and it's a tough lesson, is that you can speak up, you can know your worth, you can ask, and you can be rejected. And what is your backup plan? You need a backup plan and an exit strategy. Because if it's no, are you prepared to stay there and deal with it? So you got to have a pathway to where you're going. Do you have that next thing lined up? Because if someone says no, it's going to be an uncomfortable situation. And maybe it won't be. Maybe you're in a really healthy place that, they will nurture you and kind of figure out how to do that. But I really, that backup plan, we're really big on backup plans. You got to have an A, B, C, D, E, F, G plan in this economy.
It's like when you're dating someone and you're like, you want to make it official, and they're like, no, we're just talking. And then you're like, ugh, do we keep dating?
It's
Like, it's weird now.
it's true. You must have that backup plan because no, and if you really believe you are worth it, then you must be prepared to leave it. I think for me as a boss, it's kind of hard for you to be upset when we say no and then make it very miserable. Either I understand. I mean, I respect your choices to go do what you need to do, and I hope you stay because I think you're really valuable. But I do understand why you would need to go because sometimes there's just limits in what a nonprofit can do.
100%. Marcus.
Well, I would say I love my job and I look for jobs regularly. When I think about where I'm at, the complacency, I think we can kind of get comfortable in an area and kind of forget that we should be negotiating each year for what we want to be able to make. But being able to look for jobs does a couple of things for me and actually like get into the process of applying. One, is it worth going through another application process? Like, is this a place I want to do? Is there something that I find that like sparks my interest more in this application process than what I'm currently doing right now? And if I were to be offered this job, would I have a significant salary, benefits package, vacation time, and experience than what I currently have? And over the course of the 9 years that I've been at my organization, I've been able to answer, no, I don't want to do this other additional job, and I'm okay with what I'm doing now, but it does let me sharpen what I want to ask for in the next time that we have the performance evaluation conversation, or what I'm sort of leveling out into my own expectations into that role. And so someone that's in like a mid to senior level career, one of the coaching activities that I like to say is like, look at the job descriptions and the skill sets. Put your resume right next to that and think about if I want this level of job that is a higher salary than what I am currently making, do I have that level of skill sets to do that work? And if I don't, then I need to invest my time in the next 1 to 3 years to build that skill so that way I can apply or for that role and get a higher salary or, the experience that I want, or I can ask for that at work because I've now built a new skill set that I think has value to the type of work that I am doing. So complacency is not great when you want to think about that upward mobility.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to add one thing to that, and it is talk to your boss. Don't think you're doing a great job. Ask, what are your goals? Not your goals, because you might be thinking, I'm working really hard, but you might not be moving their priorities. And so be very clear. Are these the priorities? Do a check in. Is this what we're focusing on? And then be transparent. Don't surprise this because your boss is more able to back you up and advocate for you when they know what you're working with. And the last thing I will say, because I think this is amazing, is really that I always say your value is not a discount. It's not discount. It's not discounted at all. But you also have to know that there's some work to be put in. There's a muscle to be put in and to be worked on. And salary looks different for everyone. We thank you and we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, everyone.